anticipated operational expenditure changes that we are aware of. Education and Governor Youngkin's introduced a budget anticipating some changes, likely from the incoming administration, and these are to be determined. For the K-12 education, we had an increase in our local composite index for the biennium 2026 to 2028. Our LCI went from 0.6645 to 0.7269, which translate to an increase in local funding of approximately $897,060. The new biennium, the K-12 education SOQ costs will be re-benchmarked, and the expected increase in local funding of approximately $250,000 to $300,000 will be a result of that re-benchmarking. There's also a proposed 2% salary increase effective July 2026 and 2% salary increase effective July 1st, 2027 for state-supported positions subject to the LCI. These local costs are to be determined. Reduction in the Virginia retirement system contribution rates for public school teachers for FY27 and FY28. That will provide some local cost savings, and those are also to be determined. LCI cap is currently 0.8000, which we are fast approaching with our current LCI being 0.7269. Regional jail operations and debt service are expected to increase. We don't know by how much yet. This is based on a 5-year average of our jail utilization. Debt service is to be determined. Our previous estimates for FY27 show $368,813 versus what we have currently budgeted of $58,752. Anticipate some changes in our local economy-driven revenues. These are expected to flatten slightly or slightly decline. These would be interest earnings, meals and lodging, permitting fees, and sales tax, for example. Our real property tax revenue changes are to be determined dependent upon board's consideration of the 2026 reassessment and those tax rates. Has some potential for state adoption under the new governor's administration. This would allow localities to conduct a local referendum for implementation. The potential timeline for earliest consideration on this would be November 2026 referendum, and if approved by voters, the tax would be realized by July 2027, which would be fiscal year 28. Based on FY26 budgeted revenues for the current 1% sales tax, this could yield approximately $2.3 million in revenues that would have to be dedicated for new school capital and construction. 3818. County last proposed this tax in 2018. Public hearing was held on May 8, 2018 on ordinance of 2018-02, establishing a 5% tax, and no action was taken by the board following that hearing. The approved minutes of the board's May 29, 2018 meeting reflect that there was no consensus to pursue the emissions tax at that time. Estimated anticipated revenue at the time in 2018 was approximately $235,000 to $240,000, and if the board were interested in this, we would need to reevaluate what that potential revenue looks like. Cigarette tax authorized by Virginia Code. The county last proposed implementation of this tax and participation in a regional cigarette tax board in 2021. Public hearing was held on November 9th of 2021, and the proposed ordinance to enact the tax in an amount not to exceed 40 cents per pack was not adopted, and notice was then given to the Blue Ridge Cigarette Tax Board of the county's withdrawal from that entity. Estimated revenue at the time was approximately $132,000 to $158,000, and this too would also need to be reevaluated. Tax is currently a maximum annual fee of $30 as authorized by Virginia Code and is based on a population of less than 50,000. The county could transition to a business, professional, and occupational license or B-poll tax as authorized by 58.1-3706. And this would be based on gross receipts of business entities. Analysis of the fiscal impacts of this has not been done. The FY26 budgeted amount of the business license tax is $54,000.